Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the communications center of Titan Base, holding a data pad that had just changed everything. The message was 3 weeks old by the time it reached human space, bouncing through several relay stations before military intelligence flagged it as important. "Play it again," she ordered. The technician nodded and activated the translation program. The alien voice came through the speakers, high-pitched and nervous. The words were broken by static, but the meaning was clear enough. Kithrin vessel, peaceful endeavor. Cargo manifest false. Human younglings, quantity 47, ages 6-14, destination Iron Maw Station. Hegemony control. Cannot resist. Please help. The room fell silent. Admiral Chen had served in the Colonial Defense Fleet for 25 years. She had fought pirates, raiders, and enemy fleets. She had seen soldiers die and colonies burn. But nothing had prepared her for this. 47 children. Stolen from their families and sold like animals. "What do we know about Iron Maw Station?" Chen asked her intelligence officer. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez pulled up the files on his screen. "It's a black market hub in neutral space about 6 weeks' travel from here. Built inside an asteroid to avoid detection. The hegemony uses it to trade things that are illegal in civilized systems. And the Kitherans, peaceful species, they've been forced into working for the hegemony after their economy collapsed. Good reputation among traders. If one of them sent this message, they were probably risking their lives to do it." Admiral Chen studied the star charts on the main display. Iron Maw Station was deep in dangerous territory, surrounded by hegemony warships and mercenary fleets. Getting there would mean fighting through some of the most violent aliens in the galaxy. She didn't hesitate. "I want Task Force Warhammer assembled within 12 hours, Chen announced. 3 heavy cruisers, 1 carrier, 2 stealth destroyers, and the Unconquerable. Several officers looked surprised. The Unconquerable was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, a dreadnought equipped with technology that made even veteran spacers nervous. It had never been used in actual combat. "Admiral, that's a significant portion of our fleet," Rodriguez pointed out carefully. "For 47 civilians," Chen turned to face him. Her expression was cold as space. "They're not just civilians, Commander. They're children. Our children. And if we let this slide, every alien slaver in the galaxy will think humans are easy targets." The Admiral was right, and everyone knew it. Humanity had spent decades trying to build a reputation as a civilized species, following galactic laws and customs. But there were some lines that couldn't be crossed. "What about diplomatic channels?" asked Captain Martinez from the legal department. "We could file a complaint with the Galactic Council." "The Council takes years to make decisions," Chen replied. "Those kids don't have years. They might not even have weeks." The meeting broke up quickly after that. Orders went out across the human fleet. Ships that had been patrolling trade routes or conducting training exercises suddenly received urgent recall notices. Crews were pulled from shore leave and told to prepare for immediate deployment. But the news spread beyond just military channels. Somehow, word leaked to the civilian networks. Within hours, every human colony knew that their children were being sold as exotic pets to alien collectors. The reaction was swift and angry. Protests erupted on colony worlds. Families of the missing children appeared on news broadcasts, begging for their safe return. Veteran soldiers who had retired came forward, volunteering to serve again if needed. Most importantly, information began flowing in from unexpected sources. Human traders who worked the neutral zones sent data about hegemony operations. Intelligence agents who had been deep undercover for years suddenly revealed themselves to provide critical details about enemy positions. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity. They were dangerous enough when fighting for money or territory, but when their young were threatened, they became something else entirely. In the shipyards above Mars, the Unconquerable prepared for departure. The massive vessel was over 2 kilometers long and packed with weapons that could crack planets. Its crew of 3,000 included some of the best soldiers, pilots, and technicians humanity had ever produced. Admiral Chen toured the ship personally, meeting with department heads and reviewing battle plans. The dreadnought's captain, James Harrison, had fought in every major human conflict of the past decade. "What's our official mission status?" Harrison asked as they stood on the bridge. "Rescue operation," Chen replied. "We go in, get the children, and get out." And unofficially, the Admiral was quiet for a moment, watching the starfield through the main viewer. "Unofficially, Captain, We're going to send a message that will echo across the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. Meanwhile, alien intelligence networks were picking up unusual activity in human space. The peaceful species like the Altarians and Centaurians began sending quiet warnings to their governments. They remembered the stories about what happened when humans felt threatened. The predatory species like the hegemony dismissed these concerns. Humans were just another client race, dangerous but controllable. They had followed galactic conventions in previous conflicts, fighting by the established rules. How different could this be? The older, wiser civilizations knew better. The ethereals, who had been watching the galaxy for millions of years, sent urgent messages to their allies. They had studied human history and understood what Earth had produced. They are not like us, the ethereal High Council warned. They did not evolve to submit or flee when threatened. They evolved to fight until the threat is eliminated regardless of cost. But greed and arrogance won out over wisdom. The hegemony had invested too much in their slave trade to stop now. The buyers had already paid for their exotic human pets. The operation would continue as planned. In the deep reaches of space, Task Force Warhammer assembled. 6 of humanity's most advanced warships, crewed by people who were about to discover what their species was truly capable of when pushed too far. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of the Unconquerable, surrounded by tactical displays and communication screens. Reports came in from across human space. More missing children had been identified. More slave ships had been tracked. This wasn't just one isolated incident, it was systematic, organized, industrial. Admiral, her communications officer, announced, "We're receiving a message from the Galactic Council. They're requesting that we pursue diplomatic solutions before taking military action." Chen didn't even look up from her tactical display. "Tell the Council that diplomacy is for people who haven't stolen our children. We'll talk after we get them back." The fleet entered hyperspace 12 hours ahead of schedule. As they disappeared into the void between stars, alien spy networks finally began to grasp the scope of what was happening. This wasn't a police action or a rescue mission. This was humanity going to war. On the bridge of the Peaceful Endeavor, still docked at Iron Maw Station, navigator Zix-Ka watched his sensors carefully. The strange ships he had detected earlier were gone, vanished into hyperspace as quickly as they had appeared. But he could feel something coming. A change in the very fabric of space itself. The younglings in the cargo hold were still scheduled for transfer in 6 hours. Buyers from across the galaxy had already arrived at the station to inspect their purchases. Zix-Ka whispered another prayer to the star spirits. Whatever was coming, he hoped it would arrive in time. Task Force Warhammer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Iron Maw system, like thunder breaking through silence. 6 human warships materialized from nothing, their weapons already charging and shields at full power. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Unconquerable, watching the tactical display update with enemy positions. Iron Maw Station sat in the center of the system like a metal tumor inside its hollowed asteroid. Around it floated dozens of ships, hegemony cruisers, mercenary frigates, and trader vessels of every known species. "Sensor report," Chen ordered. 43 enemy warships detected, her tactical officer announced. Station defenses include heavy plasma cannons and missile batteries. Estimated total firepower is 3 times our own. The crew waited for orders. In a normal military situation, they would call for reinforcements or try to negotiate. The odds were clearly against them. Admiral Chen activated the communications array. Her message went out on all frequencies, broadcasting to every ship and station in the system. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Colonial Defense Fleet. You are harboring human children taken as slaves. Return them immediately and unharmed, and your deaths will be quick." Silence followed her words. Then the alien communications channels exploded with confused chatter. Several species had never heard humans make direct threats before. Others didn't believe that 6 ships would actually attack such a large force. The hegemony commander, Admiral Vrax, responded from his flagship. His reptilian voice was full of cold amusement. "Human female, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Withdraw now and we will allow you to leave with your lives." Chen's response was simple. Negative. The first shots came from the stealth destroyers. The 2 human ships had been invisible on alien sensors until they opened fire from point-blank range. Their missiles struck the station's shield generators, creating gaps in the defensive barrier. What followed was unlike any space battle the galaxy had ever seen. Most alien species followed established combat protocols. Ships formed orderly battle lines. They exchanged fire at respectful distances. When a vessel was critically damaged, it was allowed to withdraw with honor. Humans fought differently. The heavy cruisers, defiant, relentless, and vengeance, charged straight into the enemy formation, their guns blazing. Instead of maintaining safe distances, they closed to ranges where their armor could ram enemy vessels if necessary. Their targeting computers didn't just aim for weapons and engines. They systematically destroyed life support, communications, and escape pods. The carrier Stormbringer launched fighters that swarmed through the battle like angry insects. But these weren't the careful, defensive patrols that alien pilots expected. The human fighters attacked everything: military ships, supply vessels, even the luxury yachts that had brought buyers to purchase children. And at the center of it all was the unconquerable. The massive dreadnought moved through the battle like a force of nature. Its main guns could punch through 3 enemy ships in a single shot. Its point defense systems created a wall of fire that no missile or fighter could penetrate. When hegemony cruisers tried to ram it in desperation, the human ship's armor simply absorbed the impacts and kept firing. Captain Harrison stood beside Admiral Chen, watching their enemies die with professional satisfaction. Their formations are breaking up. Should we offer them a chance to surrender? Are the children safe yet? Chen asked. No, Admiral. Then keep firing. The battle raged for 3 hours. By the end, 38 alien warships had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors fled to the outer system, broadcasting warnings about human savagery to anyone who would listen. But the real fight was just beginning. Iron Maw Station was a fortress, built deep inside the asteroid with multiple layers of armor and defensive positions. The hegemony had designed it to withstand siege warfare for months. They had heavy weapons, trained soldiers, and complete knowledge of the terrain. Admiral Chen didn't care about any of that. Launch the Marines, she ordered. The assault shuttles launched from the human ships like bullets fired from guns. They didn't approach the station carefully or try to find weak spots in the defenses. They simply accelerated to maximum speed and crashed through the outer hull, using their armored hulls as battering rams. Inside the station, chaos erupted. The Eschatar garrison had prepared for many possible attacks. They had anti-ship weapons, automated defenses, and strategic choke points that would allow them to hold off invaders indefinitely. What they hadn't prepared for was the reality of fighting humans in close combat. The Marine assault teams moved through the station like a plague. Their powered armor let them rip through bulkhead doors that should have held for hours. Their weapons could punch holes through cover that alien soldiers thought was impenetrable. Most importantly, they didn't fight like any enemy the Eschatar had ever faced. When wounded, they didn't retreat or call for medical aid. They kept fighting until they physically couldn't continue. When outnumbered, they didn't seek better positions or wait for reinforcements. They attacked harder, using grenades and explosives in ways that endangered their own lives. Major Williams led the primary assault team through the station's main corridors. Her squad had already fought through 2 defensive positions, leaving behind them a trail of dead Eschatar warriors who had discovered that being apex predators on their homeworld meant nothing against humans. Contact, her point man reported. Heavy resistance ahead. Looks like they're making a stand at the central hub. Williams studied the tactical display in her helmet. The enemy had established a killing field with overlapping fire lanes and heavy weapons. It was a perfect defensive position. Thompson, breach charges on the ceiling. Martinez covering fire on my mark. Everyone else prepare for close assault. The explosives tore through the station's metal roof, raining debris on the Eschatar defenders below. Before they could recover, the Marines dropped through the holes like avenging spirits, their weapons firing before they even hit the ground. The battle for the central hub lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, Major Williams stood surrounded by alien bodies and checked her casualty report. 3 Marines wounded, none dead. The enemy garrison had been completely eliminated, but the most important part of the mission was still ahead. Admiral Chen to assault teams. The voice came through their communications. Children's location confirmed. Cargo hold 7, level 4. Priority 1. Williams led her team deeper into the station. They passed through sections that showed clear signs of the slave trade. Holding cells, auction rooms, and storage areas filled with cages designed for different species. The Marine Major had seen terrible things in her 15-year career, but this place made her sick. They found cargo hold 7 behind 3 layers of security doors. The Essequitar guards had already fled, abandoning their posts when they heard the Marines coming. Williams used her suit's cutting laser to slice through the electronic locks. The door opened to reveal a sight that would haunt her nightmares forever. Dozens of children huddled in metal cages, their faces pale and frightened. Ages 6 to 14, just as the message had said. Some were crying. Others just stared with the empty eyes of people who had given up hope. Williams immediately switched to her external speakers and knelt down to make herself less threatening. "It's okay," she said softly. "We're human. We're here to take you home." A little girl with dark hair pressed herself against the cage bars. She was the same one that Navigator Zixka had seen on the security feeds days earlier. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Are you really here to save us?" Williams felt tears in her eyes, though no one could see them through her helmet. "Yes, sweetheart. You're safe now. We're going to take you home to your families." The Marine Major activated her communication system. "Admiral Chen, this is Williams. We have the children. All 47 are alive. Some are hurt and scared, but they're alive." Back on the Unconquerable, Admiral Chen closed her eyes for a moment and allowed herself to feel relief. But it was only temporary. The intelligence data they had gathered from the station showed that this was just one small part of a much larger operation. "Major Williams, get those children to the medical bay immediately. Full medical and psychological support." "Understood, Admiral. What are your orders for the station?" Chen looked at the tactical display showing Iron Maw Station. It had been a center of slavery and suffering for decades. Thousands of beings from dozens of species had been bought and sold within its walls. "Rig it to blow, Major, all of it. I want nothing left but space dust." "Yes, ma'am." As the human fleet prepared to withdraw from the Iron Maw system, Navigator Zixka watched from the bridge of the Peaceful Endeavor. The Catharan had witnessed the entire battle. Seeing his desperate message finally answered, Captain Velmore stood beside him, both of them staring at the human ships in amazement and fear. "They came," Zixka whispered. "They actually came for the younglings." "Yes," Velmore replied. "And now the entire galaxy will know what happens when you threaten human children." The explosion that destroyed Iron Maw Station could be seen from 3 star systems away. The medical bay of the Unconquerable had been transformed into something between a hospital and a safe haven. Soft lighting replaced the harsh military illumination. Comfortable beds took the place of standard bunks. Child psychologists worked alongside military doctors to help 47 rescued children begin the long process of healing. Admiral Chen walked slowly through the ward, stopping to speak with each child personally. Some were too scared to talk. Others clung to the human adults around them as if afraid they might disappear. A few, the older ones, asked hard questions about what had happened to their families and friends. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the fleet's chief psychologist, joined Chen at the bedside of the little girl with dark hair. Her name was Emma, and she was 8 years old. She had been taken from New Geneva Colony during a pirate raid 6 months earlier. "How is she?" Chen asked quietly. "Better than I expected," Martinez replied. "She's resilient. They all are, but the trauma runs deep. Some of these children were held for over a year." Emma looked up at the Admiral with wide eyes. "Are you the one who saved us?" Chen knelt down beside the bed, her voice gentle. "I'm part of the team that saved you. A lot of good people worked together to bring you home. The alien with 4 arms helped too, didn't he? I saw him on the screens sometimes. He looked sad when he watched us." The Admiral nodded. Navigator Zixka was currently under protective custody aboard the Peaceful Endeavor. The Kitharan would need a new home soon. Going back to hegemony space would be a death sentence for him and his crew. But the children's rescue was only the beginning. The intelligence data recovered from Iron Maw Station painted a horrifying picture of the slave trade's true scope. The facility they had destroyed was just one link in a chain that stretched across half the galaxy. Commander Rodriguez entered the medical bay carrying a data pad filled with the latest intelligence reports. His expression was grim. "Admiral, we've identified 17 other facilities involved in human trafficking, 4 auction houses, 6 transport hubs, 3 private collector bases, and 4 breeding facilities." Chen's blood went cold at the last item. "Breeding facilities?" "Yes, ma'am. They were attempting to create a sustainable supply of human children for the exotic pet market. The Admiral stood up slowly, her hands clenched into fists. Around them, the rescued children played quiet games or spoke with counselors. These innocent souls had been bought and sold like animals, and someone had actually tried to breed more of them. Rodriguez, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we need every available ship. This isn't a rescue operation anymore. What should I tell them it is, Admiral? Chen looked around the medical bay one more time, at the faces of children who should never have known such suffering. Tell them it's an extermination. Within hours, the orders went out across human space. Every ship that could fight was recalled to active duty. Reserves were activated. Retired veterans volunteered to serve again. The shipyards worked around the clock to outfit vessels for extended combat operations. Task Force Warhammer split into smaller hunter-killer groups, each targeting a different part of the slave network. But they weren't the only ones hunting. Human intelligence networks, built over decades of careful work, suddenly came to life. Agents who had been deep undercover for years revealed themselves to gather information about slave operations. Traders who worked the neutral zones began reporting suspicious activities. Even human criminals started providing intelligence about their alien competitors. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as humanity demonstrated capabilities that no one had suspected. They had thought humans were just another military species, dangerous but predictable. Now they realized that Earth's children had been building a hidden empire of information and influence for generations. Admiral Voss commanded the hunter group targeting the Nexari Consortium, a collection of wealthy aliens who specialized in exotic pets. His 3 ships found the consortium's private station hidden in a nebula, far from any trade routes or patrol zones. The station was a palace of sorts, built for pleasure rather than defense. It housed some of the richest beings in the galaxy, creatures who could afford to buy sentient species as entertainment. The human attack force found evidence of dozens of different slave races being held there, but it was the discovery of 12 human children, dressed as servants and trained to obey without question, that sealed the station's fate. Voss gave his orders without emotion. No survivors. Nothing left standing. The attack lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the nebula glowed with the expanding wreckage of what had once been a symbol of alien wealth and power. Similar scenes played out across known space. Captain Torres led a strike against a hegemony transport convoy, rescuing 31 human children and destroying 6 slave ships. Major General Park's Marine Force assaulted a fortified moon where human breeding experiments were taking place, eliminating every scientist and guard involved in the program. But it wasn't just military forces carrying out the campaign. Human civilian contractors, corporate security teams, and even private citizens took action when they found evidence of the slave trade. On Kepler Station, a mixed-species trading hub, human dock workers discovered a hidden compartment containing 8 children during a routine cargo inspection. The workers didn't wait for authorities or file reports. They simply surrounded the slave ship and prevented it from leaving until human military forces arrived. The alien crew tried to claim diplomatic immunity and threatened legal action. The humans' response was to space them out the nearest airlock. The galaxy's reaction to humanity's campaign was mixed and increasingly desperate. Some species tried to distance themselves from the slave trade, publicly condemning it and offering to help with investigations. Others attempted to negotiate, offering reparations and promises of better behavior. The predatory species that had profited most from human suffering found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. An enemy that couldn't be reasoned with, bribed, or intimidated. The Eschatar Empire called for an emergency session of the Galactic Council, demanding that humanity be censured for their excessive response to what they claimed was a minor criminal matter. The reptilian ambassador stood before the assembled delegates and spoke with cold authority. The humans have destroyed civilian facilities and killed thousands of beings who were merely conducting legal commerce, he declared. Their actions violate every principle of civilized warfare and galactic law. The ethereal representative, ancient and wise beyond most species' understanding, responded with quiet words that carried across the chamber. You stole their young, the ethereal said simply. You caged them like animals and sold them to the highest bidder. What did you expect would happen? The Eschatar ambassador bristled. They are not the first species to lose members to the realities of galactic commerce. Every race accepts certain losses as the cost of civilization. Not humans, replied the Altarian delegate, her musical voice filled with certainty. We have studied their history. They are the only known species that evolved as persistence hunters. They do not stop pursuing prey until it is dead. You have made every human in the galaxy your predator. As if to prove her point, reports came in during the council session itself. 3 more slave facilities had been destroyed. A hegemony admiral had been found dead in his private chambers, killed by a single human assassin who left no trace except a note. You bought our children. The campaign of vengeance continued for months. Every being who had participated in human trafficking, from the buyers to the transporters to the facility guards, found themselves hunted across space. Human forces didn't just strike military targets, they systematically dismantled the entire economic and social network that had made the slave trade possible. Banks that had financed slave operations found their assets frozen and their executives missing. Corporations that had provided transportation discovered their ships destroyed and their crews spaced. Even low-level criminals who had simply looked the other way found themselves facing human justice. The message was clear. If you harm human children, there is nowhere in the galaxy you can hide. On the bridge of the Unconquerable, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest reports. Over 300 slave facilities had been destroyed. Nearly 2,000 human children had been rescued and returned to their families. The organized trafficking of humans had been completely eliminated from known space, but the cost had been high. The galaxy's economy was in chaos. Several minor species had gone extinct after their entire populations were found to be involved in the slave trade. The balance of power that had maintained peace for centuries was crumbling. Commander Rodriguez approached with the final intelligence summary. Admiral, we've confirmed the destruction of the last known human trafficking operation. The network has been completely eliminated. Chen nodded, but her expression remained serious. And the other species? The Kitherans who helped us? Safe. We've relocated them to protected colonies in human space. They've been granted full citizenship status. The Admiral looked out at the stars, thinking about the children sleeping safely in the medical bay, and the thousands more now back with their families on colony worlds throughout human space. 6 months after the destruction of Iron Maw Station, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Chamber on Centauri Prime. Representatives from over 200 species filled the amphitheater, their attention focused entirely on the human woman who had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The chamber was magnificent, built to inspire awe and respect for galactic law. Crystalline walls rose toward a domed ceiling that showed real-time images of stars and nebulae. Each species had their own section, designed to accommodate their unique physiologies and cultural needs. But today, all eyes were on humanity. The hegemony had called for this emergency session to address what they termed human aggression and disproportionate military response. Admiral Chen had been summoned to answer for the systematic destruction of the slave trade network and the thousands of alien lives lost in the process. She walked to the central speaking platform without fear or hesitation. Behind her sat the small human delegation, diplomats, legal experts, and military advisors. They were vastly outnumbered, but Chen had learned that numbers didn't always determine the outcome of important battles. Chancellor Vex of the hegemony spoke first. The reptilian's voice echoed through the chamber's translation systems, carrying tones of righteous anger and wounded pride. The humans have committed acts of unprecedented violence across civilized space, Vex declared. They have destroyed civilian installations, killed non-combatants, and ignored every principle of proportional response. Their actions have destabilized entire sectors and threatened the peace we have maintained for centuries. Murmurs of agreement came from several species, particularly those that had profited from the slave trade either directly or indirectly. But Chen noticed that many delegates remained silent, waiting to hear her response. The Admiral activated her speaking device and looked directly at Chancellor Vex. Her voice was calm but carried clearly through the chamber. You call them acts of unprecedented violence. I call them acts of unprecedented justice. Chen touched a control on her podium and the chamber's main display activated. Images filled the space above the delegates. The cargo holds of slave ships, the auction rooms of Iron Maw Station, the laboratory where human children had been subjected to medical experiments. These are the facilities you call civilian installations, Chen continued. These are the non-combatants you claim we killed unjustly. Every being who participated in the trafficking of human children knew exactly what they were doing. They knew it was wrong. They did it anyway because they thought we couldn't stop them. The images continued. Faces of rescued children, medical reports documenting abuse and neglect, intelligence files showing the scope of the trafficking network. Several alien delegates looked away from the display, unable to watch the evidence of what their species had allowed to happen. You speak of proportional response, Chen said, her voice growing stronger. Tell me, Chancellor, what would be a proportional response to the systematic kidnapping and sale of children? Should we have filed a complaint with your council? Should we have waited months or years for you to debate the issue while more of our young disappeared? Chancellor Vex's scales darkened with anger. The law provides mechanisms for addressing such issues through proper channels. Your species chose violence over civilization. Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. We chose effectiveness over bureaucracy. And the results speak for themselves. Human trafficking has been completely eliminated from known space. Not one human child has been taken by slavers since our campaign began. Can your proper channels claim the same success? The ethereal representative, oldest and most respected member of the council, spoke from their crystalline platform. Admiral Chen, while we understand humanity's desire to protect their young, your actions have had consequences beyond their intended scope. Several species have been driven to extinction. Trade routes have been disrupted. The economic balance that maintained peace has been shattered. Chen turned to face the ancient being, showing appropriate respect while maintaining her position. With respect, Elder, the peace you speak of was built on the suffering of innocence. If maintaining your economic balance required the sale of children as pets, then perhaps it was time for that balance to be destroyed. But at what cost? Asked the Centaurian delegate, her melodic voice carrying genuine concern. How many more must die for human justice? That depends, Chen replied, on how quickly the galaxy learns not to harm our children. The debate continued for hours. Species after species rose to speak, some condemning humanity's actions, others quietly supporting them. The Kithrans, now under human protection, testified about the horrors they had witnessed and their desperation to help. Navigator Zixka, the alien who had sent the original message, spoke in his high-pitched voice about watching human children suffer in cages while their captors discussed them like merchandise. The humans did not start this conflict, Zixka said. They ended it, and in ending it, they proved something important about themselves. They are not the monsters we feared. They are the protectors we needed. As the session continued, a pattern emerged. The species that condemned humanity most loudly were those that had profited from the slave trade. Those that remained neutral or supportive were the ones that had been victims themselves or had tried to maintain ethical standards in their dealings. Finally, Chancellor Vex called for a formal vote of censure against humanity. The motion would officially condemn human actions and potentially lead to economic sanctions or military intervention. Before the vote could be taken, Admiral Chen requested permission to make one final statement. The chamber fell silent as she stepped forward. Honored delegates, you have a choice to make today. You can vote to censure humanity for protecting our children. You can try to punish us for ending a trade in suffering that your governments allowed to exist for decades. You can attempt to restore the old order where the strong prey upon the weak without consequence. Chen paused, looking around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. But understand this. We are not the same species you knew 6 months ago. You have seen what we are capable of when our deepest values are threatened. We will accept your censure if you vote for it. We will even pay your fines and follow your sanctions. But if you ever again allow the trafficking of human children, what you have seen so far will seem like mercy in comparison. The Admiral's voice grew quieter, but somehow more intense. We are the children of Earth, a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We survived by learning that family is worth any sacrifice, that the innocent must be protected regardless of cost, that some fights are worth having even if you can't win them. We bring that same spirit to the stars. She gestured toward the images still displayed above the chamber. You called us Deathworlders as if it was an insult. You were right. We come from death and learn to make life flourish anyway. We learned that civilization isn't about following rules or maintaining order. Civilization is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Chen looked directly at Chancellor Vex. So vote your censure if you must. Pass your sanctions and make your threats. But remember that every human in the galaxy is now watching you. We know who supported the slave trade and who opposed it. We know who values the lives of children and who sees them as merchandise. We will remember. The chamber remained silent for long minutes after Chen finished speaking. Finally, the ethereal elder called for the vote. The motion to censure humanity failed by a wide margin. More than that, the council passed a comprehensive anti-trafficking resolution that established severe penalties for anyone involved in the slave trade of any species. But the real victory came in the weeks that followed. The Catharan people, grateful for human protection and inspired by their example, became humanity's first true allies among the stars. Their skills as navigators, combined with human technology and determination, opened new trade routes and exploration opportunities. Other species began reaching out quietly to human diplomats. The Altarians, who had long opposed slavery but lacked the power to stop it, proposed a mutual defense agreement. The Centaurians offered to share their advanced medical technology in exchange for human protection of their colony worlds. Even some former enemies began changing their policies. The hegemony, facing economic collapse as their slave-based economy crumbled, quietly started releasing non-human slaves and closing their trafficking operations. 3 months later, Admiral Chen stood in the observation deck of the Unconquerable, watching Earth's blue marble grow larger on the main viewer. The ship was returning home after a successful diplomatic mission to establish formal relations with the Catharan Republic. Commander Rodriguez joined her at the viewport, carrying a datapad with the latest intelligence reports. Admiral, we've received confirmation that the last known slave facility in neutral space has been shut down. The Nexari Consortium has formally disbanded, and their former clients have issued public statements condemning trafficking. Chen nodded, but remained focused on Earth. Any new incidents? 3 attempts in the past month. All stopped before any humans were taken. It seems word has spread pretty effectively about what happens to child slavers. The Great Hall stretched across the sky like a crystal palace. It floated high above the gas giant Nexus Prime, where purple storms swirled endlessly below. Inside the hall, 12 different alien races sat around a massive circular table. Each representative looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of living rock. Council Speaker Veltar stood at the center of the table. His body was tall and thin, almost like smoke given form. His people, the Ethereal Collective, had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ancient authority. "We gather today to discuss a growing problem," Veltar announced. His words echoed through the hall. The species called humans have been expanding too quickly. They are taking territory that belongs to established civilizations. A creature that looked like a walking crystal raised one of its sharp arms. This was Quartzian Prime Krextal, speaker for the silicon-based Quartzians. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding stones. "The humans are primitive," Krextal said. "They still use simple rockets to travel between stars. Their weapons are basic metal projectiles and fusion bombs, nothing more advanced than what we had 5,000 years ago." Around the table, heads nodded in agreement. The Zephyrians, with their bird-like features and golden feathers, chirped their approval. The massive hegemony representatives, built like walking tanks, rumbled their consent. Even the small gray watchers blinked their large eyes in agreement. Zephyrian war singer Kylith spread her wings and spoke. "Our scouts have observed their colonies. They build crude shelters and mine resources with primitive tools. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no gravity manipulators. How did such a backward species spread so far?" "Numbers," replied Veltar. "They reproduce quickly and are willing to live in harsh conditions. They settle on worlds that other species consider worthless. But now they are claiming space near our established territories." The hegemony Admiral Kethmore leaned forward. His massive frame cast shadows across the table. His species looked like humanoid bears covered in dark metal armor that grew from their skin. When he spoke, his voice was deep and commanding. "My fleets patrol the borders," Kethmore said. "Human ships avoid our vessels, but they continue to build outposts in contested regions. They do not respond to our warning signals. They pretend not to understand our universal translation protocols. A few council members shifted uncomfortably. The Monitoring Guild's intelligence coordinator, Zixana, was a small insect-like creature with compound eyes. She clicked her mandibles before speaking. Our long-range sensors show human technology has not advanced significantly in decades, she reported. They still use chemical propulsion for most travel. Their communication systems are electromagnetic radiation-based. Their largest weapons are fusion-based. By all measurements, they are at least 800 years behind Council standard technology. Veltar's smoky form rippled with satisfaction. Then we are in agreement. These humans have overextended themselves. They have grown bold because no one has challenged them. It is time to remind them of their place in the Galactic Order. The Quartzian representative struck the table with his crystal fist. The sound rang like a bell through the hall. I propose we send a pacification fleet. A simple show of force. When humans see our superior technology, they will surrender immediately. How large a fleet? Asked Killeth. Surely we do not need much to intimidate such primitive beings. Admiral Kethamore stood to his full impressive height. 200 ships should be more than adequate. A standard subjugation force. My ships carry plasma cannons that can crack planets. Our shields can deflect anything humans might throw at us. Their crude metal bullets will bounce off our hulls like raindrops. The council members looked at each other. Some whispered among themselves in their native languages. The translation systems filled the air with soft electronic sounds as different conversations were converted into common speech. What are our terms? Asked a representative from the collective minds, a species that looked like floating jellyfish made of light. Veltar gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed star charts with human settlements marked in red dots. There were more red dots than many council members had expected. Simple terms, Veltar explained. Humans will withdraw from all contested territories. They will limit their expansion to a designated zone. They will accept council oversight of their technology development, and they will pay tribute for their aggressive expansion. And if they refuse? Asked Krextall. Kethmore's armored face showed what might have been a smile. Then we demonstrate the consequences of defying galactic order. We destroy a few military installations. We blockade their trade routes. Humans are practical creatures. They will see reason quickly. The vote was called. One by one, each species cast their decision into the central display. The results appeared as colored lights. Green for approval, red for opposition. Green lights filled the display completely. The vote was unanimous. It is decided, Veltar announced. Admiral Kethmore will lead a pacification fleet to human space. You will deliver our terms and ensure compliance. Use whatever force is necessary, but remember, we are a civilized council. We seek order, not destruction. Kethmore bowed deeply. It will be an honor to serve. The humans will learn their place in the galaxy. I estimate the entire operation will take no more than 2 weeks. Most species surrender within hours of seeing our fleet. As the council meeting ended, representatives began filing out of the Great Hall. They chatted casually among themselves, already planning other business. Some discussed trade routes. Others talked about upcoming cultural exchanges. A few made plans for vacation trips to pleasure worlds. None of them seemed concerned about the decision they had just made. To them, this was routine business. Throughout galactic history, the Council had faced dozens of aggressive young species. The pattern was always the same. A show of superior force, followed by quick surrender and integration into the galactic order. Veltar remained in the hall after the others left. He floated near the great windows looking out at the storm-covered planet below. His people had evolved beyond physical form eons ago, but they still appreciated beauty. The purple storms were particularly striking today. His assistant, a younger ethereal named Mistval, approached quietly. Do you have concerns about this operation, Speaker? Veltar's form shifted slightly, which was the ethereal equivalent of a shrug, no more than usual. The humans may resist initially. Young species often do, but they will see reason when faced with superior technology. They always do. The intelligence reports suggest humans are unusually stubborn, Mistval observed. Stubbornness means nothing against plasma cannons, Veltar replied. Admiral Kethmore's fleet could destroy their entire civilization if necessary. But it will not come to that. Humans are not stupid. They will recognize when they are outmatched. Far below them, the storms of Nexus Prime continued their eternal dance. The gas giant had no solid surface, only endless layers of atmosphere stretching down into crushing darkness. It was a fitting metaphor, Veltar thought, for the depth of Council power. In 3 days, Admiral Kethmore's fleet would depart for human space. Within a week after that, the human problem would be resolved. The galaxy would return to its proper order, with the Council maintaining peace through superior strength. Veltar had no way of knowing that his decision had just set in motion events that would shatter everything the Council thought they knew about power, technology, and the true nature of humanity.